All of these new events seem really good. Yeah, they're interesting. Qing Empire declared war on Shaanxi. So that's... Oh, fighting Shaanxi. Shaanxi can support you, though, can't they? Yeah, that is Shaanxi. Guangdong Clique declared war on Guangxi, so we've got the civil war down here. So China is really erupting. Everything's kicking off. I think Bill C7 is not changed by revised focus because it fires so many events it would really complicate to amend. It's not just changing the date stamps. And I feel like this is one that should take a long time. Kind of like the Black Monday recovery stuff should take a long time. I still feel like Germany recovers from that way too quickly. Like, one of the nice things about early Kaiserreich is that you're really in a race against time to recover from Black Monday before France goes after you. And if France waits too long to declare, then Germany just gets stronger and stronger. No idea that Owlcat were making another Pathfinder game, and now it's being even more ambitious. And it's looking really good. So yeah, I would definitely check it out. And Owlcat made Pathfinder Kingmaker, which was another really good game. So if you like isometric style RPG, CRPGs, in the vein of Baldur's Gate, or Icewind Dale, or Pillars of Eternity, then the Owlcat games, Pathfinder Kingmaker, and now Wrath of the Righteous, looking good. Well, Kingmaker was good. This is looking good. Canada has been able to avoid the bitter class war that engulfed Britain after the Great War, but conflict between Canadians and the British exiles is growing, as has syndicalist sentiment amongst Canada's labour unions. Both the Conservatives and the Liberals have suggested the RCMP be granted sweeping powers to crack down on dissidents, with a minister to act as the chairman of a parliamentary committee to oversee the process. The Conservatives have proposed Maxwell Knight, renowned hardliner and British exile, be that chairman. The Liberals, meanwhile, have said that Ernest Laponte would do a better job. He may be more moderate in his views, but as an MP from Quebec, he is more in tune with the French Canadians. Laponte is sounding really good for that, actually. Or no secret police, we're all in this together. For this, I think we do need one. So we'll go Laponte. We're bringing together wide support for the bill here. Owlcat had enough money to make the game before the Kickstarter too, from what I've heard. The Kickstarter was all for the bonus stuff. Yes, they had enough. Well, it's kind of the same as what we had with Starium. We can afford to fund and create the game ourselves, but it would take way freaking longer and it just wouldn't be as good. Whereas if you get the extra funding from Kickstarter, you can do a lot more with it. So, without the Kickstarter, they would have enough to put out the game. It would just be the base game. The basic game, not the base game. Do we want to research? Oh wait, 37. And we definitely want the construction upgrade, so let's get that first. I think they can be major unrest. I don't think they can break off or anything. I think they can, but only if you really piss them off. Which if you go hardline, 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 I'm guessing happens. The Indo-Chinese government has gone into exile and the main... Really? Southeast Asia won. Even without League of 8 provinces supporting them. Nice. Don't get to see that very often. The voting begins on Bill C7. With the debate on C7 now coming to a close, the House Speaker has begun to roll call and the voting can begin. Tensions are high and a failure by the government here would be catastrophic. Speaking of which, I should probably actually start investing. So we can invest in ourselves. We can invest in some of these guys. I feel like we want to invest in India. I want India to win the Civil War. And then I think probably France as the other big player here. Or Australasia. Australasia would allow us to get a lot more of a hold in the Far East. But the Third Internationale isn't very active here. That would be more of a counter-Japan thing. No, we definitely want to go Kingdom of France, so we're just going to double down on both of them. Cool. Right, let's get the CN rail expansion. Rail networks are the arteries of the nation of Canada, and none more so than the state-run Canadian National Railway. Expanding this network can only strengthen the nation, and it will surely prove crucial should we need to perform wartime supply and troop transports across the nation. Lightfoot J. Pauls has redeemed a shout-out. Lightfoot Pauls, thank you very much for doing that. I'm trying to think of nice things to say. There have been so many shout-outs today. It's kind of difficult being just this creative. But creative I shall be, because you are a... let me think. You are so in tune with the needs of this stream and the underlying community which provides so much power, as the Native Americans were in tune with the world around them and being just generally awesome in that way. I'm only saying this because Lightfoot, whenever I see that name, just reminds me of one of those awesome Native American chiefs that do awesome things for awesome people. So stay being awesome, and all hail Lightfoot Paul. Chat, we need to all hail Lightfoot. So all hail Lightfoot. Can I please get an army named Marshall's Marauders? Special forces are something that shall liberate the home isles from the Sindies. I think that can be achieved. These are going to be Marshall's Marauders. There we are. I'm a long-time lurker, working while you're on all time. Yeah, I definitely recognise the name. You've been in chat quite frequently. All hail Big Chief sitting Lightfoot. Yeah, it's interesting, like, seeing so many different names and, like, the impression you get of people judging by the names. I mean, me, Mordred Viking, you get kind of a Nordic feel, at least I'm assuming so, especially when Nord Mead is playing in the background. Lightfoot, I definitely get, like, the Native American chief being awesome. Tanks Duck. Like Disney? No, not Disney. Like tanks, but with a duck. It's like amphibious tanks. That's what I'm trying to say. It's kind of interesting, just like the perception of all the different names. And what you can draw from that. General So, your impression. Chinese General So being more like Sing Tao, I would say. So probably like a northeastern China general. Larsman has redeemed a shout out. Well, Larsman, the name that I always feel like I need to correct because of the leet speak within it. But Larsman, you've been around a long time. I'm trying to remember the first time that we interacted. I feel like it was with Kaiserreich. You are very often here with Hearts of Iron. I think that Larsman was actually one of the first tank commanders I named after a subscriber. Or one of the first tank armies. Or was it a ship? I know it was something important. And you've been here, like I said, a long time. So, all hail Larsman! Let's make him feeling properly welcome and appreciated in the community, as he should be, as a very long time supporter. So, all hail Larsman! Huzzah! Meanwhile, Tropus is just support spelled backwards. Oh, that's cool. Marshall, we've looked into it, but we cannot make an elite force named after you. But the janitorial division does need a name. You do have Native American genes. It shows. Like, Lightfoot really is like an awesome Native American chief name. Isdar has redeemed a shout out. Isdar, one of the most magnificent moderators. It's going to make all the other mods jealous. Here on the channel, I actually caught my attention as somebody important in the community because you're always really helpful, and you give a lot of really interesting historical feedback and are very quick on Wikipedia. In fact, I think of all of the wiki warriors that I know, Isdar is probably one of the best, especially when we were playing Ultimate General. And because my own knowledge of the American Civil War was so poor, you were very, very good at digging up information and telling me about the various battles in the game that I was playing at the time. So Isdar, all hail Isdar, the wisest of the wiki warriors here on the Maudlings. So all hail Isdar, huzzah! Hail Isdar the Wise. Also, Isdar, talking about name impressions. I hate to say it, but Isdar sounds really elven. You would definitely be like one of the elven kings or commanders or something like that. Like an elven ranger or something along those lines. Has a very Tolkien-esque ring to it. Like Isildur, although Isildur was human. Indo-Chinese revolution is defeated. Despite the ferocious guerrilla warfare from the Viet Minh troops, the German army has managed to thwart the Viet Minh revolt in Indochina. The leaders of the Indo-Chinese Union, hiding in the plain of reeds after the central government evacuating Saigon, are assumed dead after the German troops launched a thorough sweep. However, there are also rumours of the Viet Minh leaders crossing the border and fleeing to other countries. Whatever may be the case, the war has left an indelible scar on the land, with thousands of villages ruined and millions losing their homes in the vicious fight between the German troops and the Viet Cong guerrillas. Hey, Chewbacca. The votes have been tallied, and the Speaker of the House declared that the Bill C7 is passed within the House of Commons and in the Senate. Not everyone is in favour of the Bill's measures, but it seems like both sides are eager to get forward to get the new laws implemented as soon as possible and see Canada move forwards together. Hear, hear! So we've lost the divided nation penalty. We are allowed to change mobilisation laws freely. We've gained the compromise economic plan, which is consumer goods down, max factories and state up, factory output plus 10, dockyard output plus 10. Southern Ontario gains 2 build slots and 2 factories. Montreal gains a build slot. We've gained the Mounties, which is plus 5 stability and minus 10 damage to garrisons, which is good. And Minister for the Interior is now Ernst Lapointe, who is daily political power gain plus 0.4 and also construction speed. I would say that's a pretty darned good outcome. So if you're the Minister of the Interior, who was the other guy? He was a conservative. You get Eden as paternal autocrat. Interesting. Oh wait, these are foreign ministers. Interior, I'm guessing, are at the end? Oh, here they are. Yeah, Bennett as a Minister of the Interior instead of head of government. Ewan, was it Bethune? No, he's a syndicalist. Wasn't Clark Gillis? It was Garson, wasn't it? Stuart Garson, crime fighter. Yeah, it was this guy. No, he's social liberal. Who was the Conservative choice for the Mountie leader? Graydon? No, he's a silent lawyer. Knight. Maxwell Knight. There he is. Minister of the Interior, paternal autocrat, secret police chief, daily political power down, encryption up. Interesting. So he would make your ciphers harder to crack. Cool. And Bennett is a silent workhorse, which gives political power and resource gain efficiency. We've got Henry Page Croft, who's the British Prime Minister. So this is the guy in charge of the Senate at the moment. Political power cost plus 0.5. War support goes up, division attack goes up. We've got Bracken, the economy minister. War support up, production efficiency up, military factory construction speed up. Cool. Yeah, I feel like we came out of that really well, actually. I'm quite happy with that outcome. So, we should probably start mobilizing. We have more than enough war support for this. And we'll be able to get all the way up to partial. And I so much prefer this over time increase. So much better. And we also gained a military factory. Is there anything we need? I think probably just more guns, frankly. Or more motorized. Let's get more motorized going. Yeah, it was Maximal Knight. Okay. We should knight him just to confuse the people he meets. Sir Knight! Maybe need more tanks if doing mobile warfare. I think we'll need motorized more than tanks. I mean, yes, tanks, but also don't forget that we're going to be going for medium tanks rather than lights. Light tanks will be mostly possibly for recon. Although, generally I prefer armoured cars as recon. But I don't have armoured cars research. That's another thing we do definitely need. Across Quebec, French Canadians have taken to the streets in massive protests against the country's conscription policy. In Montreal alone, a massive crowd filled St. Catherine's streets with a loud chanting against both the Prime Minister as well as King Edward. It's a reenactment of the conscription crisis in 1917, though this time it seems the French Canadians have lost their patience. Again and again we are called upon to shed French blood on behalf of the English wars in Europe. Quebec Premier Maurice Duplessis told a large and angry crowd in Quebec City, "We say no. They tell us we must. Quebec will never be free of English tyranny so long as the lapdog of two English politicians." I suppose we should have seen this coming. Now, this is something that doesn't make so much sense to me, because it's not just England we're fighting for, it's also the Kingdom of France. And surely the Quebecois would be in favour of that. They're still in the Entente. Now, does this count as actual resistance? Because this is where it feels like they should start resisting. I guess that event was made before La Resistance. Well, no, because I've got so many La Resistance things in it already. Or maybe that's just the focus modifiers as opposed to the actual use of resistance mechanics. But the reason for why you think the name sounds Elven is because I chose it for my first Baldur's Gate game. Istar, that's really interesting, because Mordred came from my first Baldur's Gate game as well. Except then I was known as Mordred the Powerful. But yeah, it's funny how Baldur's Gate leads to, like, forever names. Soul Buddies! Must be, must be. Oh, that's brilliant. Ha! Yeah, EU4 starts tomorrow. The Dev Clash. 3 PM on Twitch, Central European Time. 2 PM GMT. Oh, it's 2 PM. I might actually be able to watch it all before I stream. So usually about 3 hours. Cool! Oh, Scapper did a shout out. I am very sorry for that, Scapper. I'm missing shout outs clearly, because when someone does a shout out during a shout out, it kind of gets drained. Scapper, thank you very much for redeeming that. Might as well join in, though. I'd like my shout out to go to the Union Woodpeckers. Of course. Scapper was coming to renown in the Ultimate General series where we're playing as the Union. You had the sharpshooters who couldn't hit a goddamn thing. Except for the trees. I mean, I always use the skirmishers in the trees because you get the cover bonus, obviously. And you shot a lot of trees with those skirmishers. So that is the origin of the woodpeckers, Scapper's woodpeckers. I remember that. So yes, all hail Scapper, the returning sharpshooter, the shooter of trees. And I'm sure that many, many trees were shot to pieces by Scapper. All hail Scapper! Huzzah! Gotcha, so. Your name came from your grandfather. That's cool. The Slayer of Squirrels, yeah. So we have now bypassed Quebec in flames, and in fact we could immediately go and deal with this. So we can't do the Montreal conference because we went right-wing. Well, we went more right-wing. Centre-right as opposed to centre-left. Although market liberals I would not consider left. All the same, the market liberals are the liberals. And we went conservative. That's the difference. So this was probably the most reasonable outcome. But this is also like the really pro-Canadian outcome. So we can either try to suppress them, or we can invoke the War Measures Act. This is really hardcore against them, though. And this leads us down to authoritarian democrat. Which we are not doing. So we're going to suppress them. And then empower the Anglophones, I guess. We have had enough. Understanding the interests of the Quebecois is one thing, but letting them decide when they get to be part of this country and when to fight for it, that is beyond reason. If they wish to talk, it will be after the RCMP and the military have gone in to restore order. 406 Mob has also redeemed a shout-out. We're having the same thing with the shout-outs today that we had with the naming yesterday. So many, you've got so many points saved up. Ah, crazy. 406, thank you very much for redeeming that, and we must do a shout-out to 406 Mob. 406 Mob, I know you also have been here for a while. My earliest recollection of your being here was again another tank commander. I seem to remember that there was a 406 Mob tank division. Am I correct in that? I remember it less clearly than I did with Larsman, but there is definitely a memory of this. Shout out to my favourite Uncle Bernie. Well, there we go. Shout out to 406's Uncle Bernie. Huzzah and hail to Uncle Bernie, and also 406 Mob. All hail. I have 110,000 points, but I'm not using them today. Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a lot of shout outs and naming and stuff like that, just because so many people had so many saved up. But that's okay. It'll even out a little bit. Right, ships. You guys are mostly trained. We also have enough now Navy experience to actually start upgrading our ships, probably. So let's see if this is going to work, because I'm not convinced it will. Let's split out all the destroyers. Let's put you into your own task force so I can actually split you out and see what we got going on here. Because I'm guessing some of these are going to be mine layers. You are an escort, 2 torps, sonar, anti-submarine. You're just very, very standard. I bet a bunch of these are going to be very standard, actually. You have 1 less torpedo. You also don't have sonar. So these ones, the Crusader Templar class, definitely need upgrading. So I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put you... Whoops. Into a new fleet to say, upgrade these guys. Then these ones don't even have AA. Do you have AA? You have AA. Okay. So these are even older. And then these guys are the same as these, right? Yeah. So the Crusader Templars are the same as the VW. Let's see if there's a difference in your stats, which would belie something else. Nope, you two are actually the same. Okay, so what we need to do is create a thing based off of this, which is going to have sonar, and we'll have torpedoes. So these are going to be escorts. The other ships are going to be screens. So we're going to take a patron name. which I think is what I'm going to use for the ships. And we're going to call this the Bankert class, Banker E. And you got sonar, you don't need that. I don't want to change too much about this to keep the refitting cost really, really low. This is looking good. So we're going to make you lot into Banker E's. We're going to make you lot into Banker E's. And I think you lot as well. Although you will need to add sonar. But you want to have sonar as a base anyway. And also the AA. Alright, so that's going to keep our dockyards busy for quite a long time. So let's say make one more of those, then we're going to switch to refits. Meanwhile, we have these guys, which are going to be the S's. So we're going to call you... Well, actually, I'm not going to change your name, because you're actually good for duty right now. I don't need to change anything about this. So you lot are going to rejoin that fleet. Now, once you've rejoined that fleet, I do need to change your icon to be shield. No, you're going to be fighters. You're going to be that icon. And then you lot, the Bankert, is going to be the shield. And this matters because this will allow me to automatically determine where I want these destroyers to serve. Okay, good. And Commander Faceless has also redeemed a shout out. Huzzah to Commander Faceless, thank you very much for doing that. Faceless, you are always here. You are definitely one of the most frequent and most loyal members of the community at the moment. My most memorable interaction with you is when I was playing as the UK in the multiplayer game of Hearts of Iron, and you were playing as the USA. And you did a really good job of A, supporting me with tons and tons of fuel, allowing me to persecute Tokriva, who was playing in Germany, and basically just deny her complete control over the seas. We kept the trade routes open. That was primarily because of the American imports and also your actions in North America. It was the American heavy tank divisions, I believe, that was able to stop and eventually push back the Soviet intervention. And that basically saved Europe because the Soviets aligned themselves with the Axis. So, huzzah to that, and all hail Commander Faceless. Chat, let's all hail Commander Faceless. Huzzah!